When you're starting something new, you need to be extremely nimble, extremely open-minded, extremely alert, extremely paranoid, and many other things.
Even if you have money and you don't want to give, you're never going to give.
Absolutely.
I don't think money and giving are related.
And I keep asking my teams everywhere, is that the best ideas and the best innovation will come when you have more money or you have less money? And the categorical answer is when you have less money.
You have said that it's never about starting small or big, it's always about the clarity of vision. What is that clarity of vision that you refer to?
Some sort of giving needs to start at the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, not when you're white-haired. It is ridiculous to expect a person who will suddenly want to give when they're old. Yes. Why would they want to give? Ask yourself a fundamental question, which is, am I happy? If I die tonight, will I have major regrets?
Hi, I am Naghma Mulla and welcome to a new episode of Give It a Go. Today I'm joined by Ronnie and Zarina Screwvala, two people who've worn many hats but always kept one eye on impact. Ronnie is best known for shaping the Indian media landscape, but his second act as co-founder of the Swades Foundation has been all about rural transformation. Zarina leads that mission on the ground as the co-founder of Swades Foundation, working closely with communities to make change that actually sticks. This conversation is about the big picture and the nitty-gritty, the mindset behind giving, and what it means to build something that lasts.
Welcome to the podcast, Ronnie and Zarina. It's such a pleasure to have both of you here.
Thanks, Naghma.
Thank you.
Really happy to be here. Thank you.
No, I mean, I'm going to start really from the start in the early 80s and 90s when I think you started with toothbrush industry, then into the cable TV industry, and now my latest view of you has been the philanthropic industry. Now, everywhere you've been involved in ideas a little ahead of their times. What is it about these industries or opportunities in general that you seem to find that others seem to miss constantly?
No, I don't think everything is about pioneering. I think our cable TV was definitely pioneering at that time. Toothbrushes was an opportunity. Definitely wasn't pioneering. There were a lot of people who were making toothbrushes for a gazillion amount of years before one started to do that. I think there the idea was that it was relegated to the small and medium scale industry. And then from there, one figured out how to scale an operation up. And bring in a lot of modern technology. So maybe those were the first ones, but I wouldn't take any more credit than that. I think media then evolved, and actually that was early because when we got in there, I don't think anyone even defined and didn't call it media and entertainment. It was still very, very early stages. People would call it production. The first 30 people we hired, we had to go meet their parents to convince them to come and work with us. So all
Really?
of that.
And we had used all our theatre training. Mostly the theatre people moved to TV.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you had to convince your parents to move at that time.
Yes,
nobody
because
wanted to
it's a
join.
new sector, new industry, new trusting,
Wow.
whatever else. When people ask, what's your recruitment plan? When you've done something like that, you can do anything after that. And I think moving forward, it was, I think at that early stage, we started up with forming the not-for-profit. One of the formative stages of our media company, when we started UTV, was when we started what we would call an old age home and a creche, which was in our office premises. I think that was the germ of the idea. That's where it kind of started from. From there, we kind of moved into exploring rural India at a very small stage and then took it to a next level. So I think it's grown, but the important part of that, I think here is, we're sitting here because of that germ. I don't think it would have happened if when we scaled it, which was say maybe from 2014 onwards, the scaling wouldn't have happened if there wasn't a germ. So actually the credit goes first to the germ, then to the scaling in that context.
No, absolutely. But when you started even UTV, I think the capital was just barely 37,500 or something like that.
Yeah.
So you started with that limited capital and a really big vision. Now, what is the original clarity that you refer to? Every time that you speak about starting UTV, you have said that it's never about starting small or big. It's always about the clarity of vision. What is that clarity of vision that you refer to?
Yeah, when you're starting something new, you need to be extremely nimble, extremely open-minded, extremely alert, extremely paranoid, and many other things. Because only from that and that confluence and a lot of failures comes success. So I think that trait people forget. They always look at the rearview mirror, or they look at the thing that is fast forwarded 5 years later.
Yeah.
So, and I think we were also market making and setting up a sector. But I think the clarity of vision at that stage was content is going to be something that's going to be evergreen. Having learned that in the cable TV days also, that what people would like to consume and how we can be disruptive. Plus, we were outsiders. So for us, we needed to tell not the normal Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi soaps when it came to TV,
Yeah.
nor the romantic love stories, filled with cast and crew when it came to movies telling. So that I think was the path-breaking part.
Yeah. You were with Pearl Padamsee.
Yes,
for
and
the
he was
long-
with Alec Padamsee and Pearl.
All right.
That was our early days
Yes.
of this.
So when you moved into what your feeling of being an outsider, did it take time for it to evaporate, or was it always
never
there?
evaporated.
It never
I think we were the eternal outsiders. We still are in the media industry. And now, of course, that period of our life is totally over. And Ronnie, I think, dabbles a little bit. And I think he's very talented, I have to say, in selecting of his scripts and his team. And always trying to find something really that is new to explore, which is a gift he has. It's good. But now I think our focus has completely changed from media.
Yes. When you're immersed in an industry so deeply, and when you are pioneering or setting new examples, how easy or difficult is it to start letting go and say, all right, I did what I did here, and now I want to do something new?
No, I think when you're immersed, you can't let go. So
Right.
it's a click and a switch in that sense. While you're immersed, you have to be fully immersed.
Yes.
You can't be slowly letting go. You're not making a succession plan.
But there
You're
must
not
be
planning
a
to
thought,
retire.
right, that comes that, maybe this is it, or not like that.
No.
It never works like. Then
No.
how did you then move focus from media to philanthropy?
Well, we got an offer
Oh,
from this.
Yeah, no, I think we had
That's a
a
different
phenomenal
story.
relationship with the Walt Disney Company.
Yeah.
They were on our board. They owned 33% of the company. For 6 years, we were looking at things together. So it made logical sense for them to pop the question to us that why don't we put all of that together? So, and I think that works in that particular point. Let's assume that wasn't the case, and one at that stage felt at a decisive stage that maybe the next leg of the media part one doesn't need to do. This just happened the other way. It could have happened the
Yeah.
other way. But the differentiation of what I wanted to make was, when you're in, you're all in. And then when you feel this is something that you want to exit, it can either, because opportunity knocks, or you have decided that there's a separate calling.
yeah. And in your case, you decided.
No,
No,
I
it
think
was
the
an
the
opportunity.
opportunity came.
No, after when we are moving from media into philanthropy, the whole concept of rural transformation. for
But
folks
again,
like-
I want to say that this rural, as Ronnie was saying, the germ was there from the year 2000. We had already moved into rural India as SHARE, Society to Aid, Heal, Restore and Educate. Very small NGO, with very few people, and very beautiful work being done on the ground. It was also very community driven at that point. There were a lot of learnings we took from it. So the seed was already there.
there.
We had pockets of trust in Raigad. Many people ask us why Raigad. The main reason is these pockets of trust which takes years to build. So really it was, we can tell you the story of how we decided to ramp it up.
Yeah.
But the seed was already very much there.
Yes. And as you were making such important life decisions and business decisions, we often are told that it's difficult for couples to coexist, at home as well as
Coexist or co-work, you mean? Yeah.
yeah. How did you navigate around something like that?
I think we fight a lot. But in the end of the day, I think we have respect for each other's choices and decisions.
I think when you're in the not-for-profit sector, you need heart, and then you also need the other part of it. So you need hard and you need hard, H-A-R-D also. So I think that's a good yin and yang of what we would bring to the table. And then each one
I
has
can
to
also
let
be
go of
hard.
the
If
other.
he's referring to my heart,
Yeah.
I can say I can be hard too. I
Yeah.
think he can be both as well. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, I think really it's incredibly helpful to have even if it wasn't your husband, you definitely, I feel you need a partner. This is not a journey. I'm talking about the philanthropic journey. which you can really do alone. Because there's so many challenges and so many times where you doubt yourself. So many decisions you have to continuously make. People don't appreciate how much failure and learning there is if you're deeply involved and you want to solve a deep and a really deep and meaningful problem. You want to solve this. Then you need that kind of person who will, if you're feeling a bit down, will pull you up, or vice versa. And I think that is what happens here.
Yeah, but this is an important and all-encompassing question for a lot of people. So I just like to sort of divide that. I mean, normally it happens, the cons are, you can get very competitive with each other. The second con is obviously you take it home with you and then it becomes obsessive in your whole life. The pros are obviously that you share common dreams and common thought processes, which in not-for-profit makes it even easier and even more fulfilling to do.
Rewarding.
On the cons, I think neither of us are competitive with each other, and the second is that actually the successful part of that is outside of the where we do it, it's never discussed at home. So I think that differentiate also makes a little bit of a difference, which I think a lot of people carry it as a 24-hour operation, and I think we don't do that. We don't have. There's no real divide for it. It just doesn't come up in that context. It's kind of. It's not compartmentalized, but it's not all-encompassing.
I think we're both working so hard that we don't have that much time to spend together. So when we spend it together, we don't want to talk about talk about things that are
healthy boundaries
family-oriented.
of even how you spend
without
time
thinking
with
about it so much. But I do agree with Ronnie on that. Yeah.
So before we deep dive into the philanthropic journey, I want to dwell a little bit on the concept of wealth and also the comfort of wealth. We had a very, very interesting discussion with Archana and Amit Chandra as well. And we spoke about what is enough and when does one feel that it is enough to look beyond one's own immediate need and look for what a community needs and otherwise. So with the concept of wealth, when does it get comfortable to start thinking about outside of your ecosystem? Or was that something that was core to your DNA?
But you see, the two are completely
I don't think they're even related at all. Not at all. I don't think the amount of money you have makes any difference on your giving. Your giving is going to happen whether you have money or not, if you want to give. Even if you have money and you don't want to give, you're never going to give.
Absolutely.
I don't think money and giving are related. I really believe this deeply. I mean, we used to have this creche for differently able children. I mean, and all we did was have a room this big in our rather large office at that time. It was in Sakinaka. It was like difficult to get there, but you do not have to be. And then we asked and begged and borrowed and we did whatever we wanted to do at that time. We may not have given the amount of time we have. Yes, certainly we didn't have that kind of money, but we managed to get the money. We managed. We always managed. Because we wanted to do it. And it was since I don't even know what the date was.
No, so I'd like to be categorical. There's no connection between the wealth creation and the giving back. It should not be. That's kind of one. It's like the question I ask a lot of people, and I keep asking my teams everywhere, is that the best ideas and the best innovation will come when you have more money or you have less money. And the categorical answer is when you have less money.
For sure.
And so similarly here, resources is multiple in many ways. Money is just one of them, because it can't be that you're solving problems with money. Because if you are, you're actually not solving the problems. You are giving a grant, you are gifting, you are doing lots of stuff. 20-30% will get wasted, and 30-40% will have no impact. But when you do it for the right reasons with the right resources, you will have at least 90% of that 100% of that every rupee that's going to have an impact. So that's very important that you draw the line when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s in age.
If I may add, I really believe that giving needs to start much younger. Children need to experience the joy of giving their time or playing with someone or explaining something to someone that they already know something. Some sort of giving needs to start at the age of 3, 4, 5, 6. What 20, not 30, not 70, not when you're white-haired. It is ridiculous to expect a person who will suddenly want to give when they're old.
Yes.
Why would they want to give? I don't even see it. It has to start, it has to become something that you've seen your parents do and encourage it. There is a joy to it. There is a tremendous feeling of joy.
Who in your life was that inspiration, if there was?
I think our parents, we both come from very, very middle-class families, and it just came very naturally to us. It was always generosity.
But I do want to stay with this topic because if
Yes.
this
Yeah, I think this
podcast
is
is
key.
about
Absolutely.
really sharing messages, I wanted to differentiate that there isn't a link. I want to further actually talk about the fact because look, normally what happens is there's this whole pledging and you've seen a lot of that and that's
Yeah.
fantastic and I have high respect for people who want to pledge 90% of their wealth, 60% of their wealth, 50% of their wealth. But that's not the real core because that'll happen with 200 people, 500 people, maybe even 5,000 people on earth.
Yes.
But it's not going to happen with many people. That doesn't mean philanthropy stops there because if you caption it with pledging of your part of your income, you're in deep trouble. Because the main point is for most people who want to give back, they may have cyclic processes in their years.
Yes.
So let's assume you didn't have a bank balance. You will still have your ups and downs. That doesn't mean in the years in which you let your community down. So when you make something where you're pledging with people, you'll have to make sure with them that actually because they've got your faith and you've got their back, you'll have to figure out ways that are non-financial in nature to do that. And that's really when giving back really counts.
Yeah. That all comes, what you're saying, from a deep intention to stick around,
Yeah.
to be there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But when
It's a commitment.
Absolutely. So when we, the Edelgive and Hurun team works on this philanthropy list, and we've also done a lot of, soft interviews with younger folks to see why in the top 10, 15, 20, we usually have people in their 60s, right? The names are usually those in 60s.
Yeah.
And we've spoken to the younger crowd, the 30s and the 40s, and we usually hear things like, I want to learn more, I want to earn more. And these are already multimillionaires. And therefore what you're doing and
No, but I
what you're
think what
saying
they're not
stands
saying
out.
is it's not their money in the first place.
Yeah.
What they're
They
not
haven't
saying
earned
is
it
that.
yet.
But you're asking those people. So I again want to clarify. You're asking the people whose not money it is. So what they're trying to say is when it comes to me, I'll decide. Right now, I'm on borrowed time and I get my salary or I get my this. Of course, that wealth is mine and I enjoy the lifestyle, but it's not my discretion. But if you ask the people who don't come from the same background which you talk to, which is not in the top 100 and 200 and top 1,000, they'll give you a very different answer.
That is, what an insight that is, because it's like hitting me. And yes, I agree with what you're saying. So there is an insecurity about how much I own. So what can I promise and what can I give away?
Yeah.
That
But if I don't have any insecurity, then I'll definitely commit even more.
That is.
And that's why I go back to the germ of the idea for us, which was that we started at a time when we didn't have it. And we continued for 10, 15, 20 years when we didn't have it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why for us, it's not about wealth linked to giving back.
Correct. And I want to stick in this, stay here with this topic a little more because this is important. When you started, when wealth happened, when serious wealth happened, at that point, didn't you feel like, oh, I want to buy that car or I want to, your indulgences, that list?
You're asking the wrong couple for any of those.
So
this is not that couple. This is knock, knock, who's there? We won't be able to give you an answer.
So somehow we never considers ourselves as rich. I don't know, because when we were brought up, we were from middle to lower middle class families, right? I mean, I wouldn't say maybe middle class families.
Yeah.
Maybe Ronnie
But
was
life
even
is
more
not about
challenging.
either or, I guess.
And,
because if you have a certain sense of wealth, you make your choices.
No, and I think, Ronnie, when you grow up in a middle class home, no matter what happens to you after that, you remain middle class. In your mindset. Like you cannot bring yourself to spend a ridiculous. I think one of the things we love to do is have beautiful holidays together. So that's because we want to be together as a family with, Ronnie's daughter, Trisha, and our son-in-law and my brother. And those are things that we wouldn't mind spending on within reason, again. But no, it's not. I think we're blessed also. Trisha doesn't, it's just of the similar mindset as us.
But again, just because you don't do that doesn't mean you'll be a philanthropist either.
Absolutely.
Yeah. and also it's a very personal choice. So it's not it's really not for conversation because it's up to you how you want to be.
Yeah.
Really, it's okay. I don't think it's so
But
important.
50% of the
discuss
world
this.
lives on credit. So 50% people have what you call nice cars, nice clothes before they even have the wealth for it because they
Yes.
borrow.
Yes. And that creates this whole cycle of FOMO, right? And more people
And
who
anxiety
borrow,
and stress.
The anxiety, the stress in accumulation.
Yeah.
Of
It's
wealth that's not
values
It's not
really
accumulation,
need
it's
to
social
be.
pressure.
Oh, that too.
That too, but also the values are shifting and
Yeah.
they need to be realigned, Basically, I think what the world needs is a realignment of values, a refocus on what truly matters to me. And once we do that, and once we decide how do I want to spend what I have in terms most important of time first, and energy and connections, and what can I bring to the table, and money will also be part of that package.
Yeah.
You may not always have money, but you may have excellent connections. You can still create a lot of magic. But mainly, I think it's always good, say every 5 years in your life, or if you're going to do it every year on your birthday, say, as a habit, to realign, to pause, to ask yourself a fundamental question, which is, am I happy? Is my life filled with meaning and joy? If I die tonight, will I have major regrets? Or will I say, okay, I've lived a good life? And we need to do this. We need to realign, stop, pause, reset. Really, because our world is full of distractions. And it's only getting worse. Basic principles of truth and goodness and beauty and justice are, you're looking for them, but the only place you can find them is in yourself. And really, then your course, whatever you choose to do, your business will be ethical, your family life will be ethical and joyful, filled with meaning. And if you choose to do philanthropy, that will be meaningful. But you don't have to be a philanthropist to do good in the world. If you do your business beautifully with an ethical base, so many of they do.
Yes.
And we can name them, I won't name them, but yes, the Tatas, the Godrejas, so many, Birlas, they do it with an ethical base. And that business alone is sufficient to bring good into the world.
Yes.
You don't need to also do philanthropy. You can, and it's great. And we're very blessed that we have the CSR Act. We are very grateful to it because it really is helpful.
Yeah.
But there's so many ways to do good.
Yeah. Ethical businesses would have reduced the need for philanthropy.
Yeah,
right?
ethical and impactful also, because I think
And
it's important
needless
that
to
we
say,
get
every
into it.
other part of the life, whether it's political, religious, social, should all have an ethical base. We need to get back to the human values and ethical base.
Right, right. How did Swades Foundation, as what it is right now, how did that happen?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, as I said, the germ of the idea was many 30,
Yeah.
40 years back. And I think the very fact that we moved from this office location to rural India came in because we went to examine about a few villages that had a water problem in Maharashtra, in Raigad district. And then we kind of adopted about 39 villages at that scale, where we sort of understood their problems, worked with them. So we're already at that attachment with rural India. And I think the
And
next...
I want to interrupt him,
Yeah.
obviously, but it's a very dry way of telling the story. So when we went to this village with, it was the person who was doing share at that time was Nicola, wonderful lady. She said, my uncle wants you to come to Raigad. So we went, and while we were on the way, we said, okay, there's something we should do. Maybe we should start girl-child education. So we went and met the community with Nicola's uncle and Nicola. And our team, actually Tushar, who is still with us, 20 years, 25, I don't remember how many years he's been with us now. And so we said this. So they looked at us and they said, you think we don't want to educate our girls? So Ronnie and I looked at each other. This is the biggest lesson, okay? They said, we want to educate our girls. The reason we can't continue to educate our girls after the 8th standard is because for almost 4 months, we are fetching water. And they said, if we ask our boys to fetch the water, will they be able to earn it? They don't complete that. What would you do? This is the thing. You need to listen to your community. And that's how we started water. And water is the bedrock, one of the bedrocks. Now, I know we've spoken many times, there is another bedrock.
Yes.
But when the early days, we realized water, run by water committees of the community, were the bedrock. Without water, we didn't start working. It was very expensive, but that's how we started. And we started building these little pockets of trust. Now I'll hand it back to Ron.
Yeah, no, I think that was at that early stage, and that stayed for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Again, when we did not have the resources, but we still went about it. The germ of a more than water, a little bit of sanitation, a little bit of other schemes, a little bit of education was there. And then I think when we divested our media company UTV to Disney, and that there was obviously a new crossroad at that particular point in time. In our for-profit space, where I decided to also look at education, which was a high-impact sector, and co-founded Upgrad. And then here we had Share at that particular stage, that we were at the crossroad of what we wanted to do with it. So then we decided, let's go for it and let's scale it up. Rural came natural to us. So then we already had a model that we could take to the next level and scale there. I think the renaming of it happened because we had a few students that came in from Columbia University. They were sitting on a veranda. And it just seemed like the Swades moment, which was after one of the movies that we made, where Shah Rukh Khan goes to his boss at NASA and says, I want to go back and go to India and give electricity to my village. And the guy says, go light your bulb. So I think that was a pretty poignant moment. It was very reflective of that thought process. But I think scale and renaming happened at that particular point in time. But in between, for 2 years, we had to reinvent. Because what we were doing was obviously not good enough. So we spent almost 2 years meeting around 200, 300, 400 NGOs to understand what they were doing. Went to Bangladesh, got inspired by models there, put a lot of that into place, and came back with our own values. And one of our values, because we didn't look at it, was we wanted to be involved. We didn't want to cut a check only. Second is we wanted to make it a holistic model, because that's where we felt real impact happens. Because a lot of people do lots of great stuff for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But the report card is, if you're still in that same place and in that same locality with that same community for that long, then you obviously couldn't be making such an impact.
Absolutely.
So we wanted a kind of a finite timeline to that. So holistic model at scale was something that was important, and we wanted to be involved. And that's how the model came about.
Yeah, so it was like, I think it needs to be mentioned that the one that really inspired us was Brad. So Faisal, we met him and we saw that he was doing multiple things. We didn't take exactly what he did at all. But we realized that basically there's no silver bullet to poverty alleviation.
Yes.
And though it went against all the advice of all the 100, 200 people, literally, we had met everyone told us, and at that time that's how it was. Do one thing and do it well.
Yes.
Sounded like very good advice, but we didn't take it.
Yeah.
Because the question is, what will you leave out? So we took, knowing that it was a huge challenge, we took water, we took sanitation, individual household toilets, drinking water, individual household toilets. We took aspects of public health, education, and livelihoods. Knowing we were taking on an enormous task, we started staffing ourselves. And then I want to fast forward my story, right? We realized that while we were doing, and we really ramped up, the model was taken up and we had built these pockets of trust, and we were really, there was a lot going on. We were almost in 3,000 villages by then. And we came to that crossroad, a second crossroad, which is really worth sharing with, I think you know what I'm going to talk about, yeah? Shall I go for it?
Yes, you have to.
Okay. And I think, Ronnie wrote a book, Dream with Your Eyes Open. And in that it says, failure is not a full stop, it's a comma. And really, this is what it was with us. And I won't call it failure. I will call it, we're genuinely a learning organization. We have just to add to what Ronnie said, we also have a geographic approach. So every time we go block by block and we tweak our model with every block. Now we're at our 6th block, okay, of Raigad. And we have realized, and it's 2016-17, 4 years have gone. We've done a lot of very good work, a lot of beautiful work. We have about 350 people and we're in 6 blocks. And we realized that through regular visits, Ronnie and I used to visit like anything at that time, realized something is a bit off. Something is not working. And finally, we all realized that, if you took my card in those days, I would say there would be my name or anybody's name, and would say rural empowerment. And we realized that actually we were being too generous, maybe. I mean, generous is not the right word. Actually, we're giving.
Yeah.
Give. Take.
Correct.
Take a cow, take a goat, take water, take sanitation. Yes. We had a model where they had to give some financial inputs, but there was no real active, deep, meaningful community involvement. And we were creating a charitable organization, not an empowerment organization. And it was a huge revelation, and
That's
we had
a
to take
big
a
moment.
huge breath. And we decided, we took a very difficult and I think a very really courageous decision to pause, just to fulfill what was already there, and really think, what should our model be going forward?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Can I pause you for that
Yes.
moment? Because this is such an important piece in philanthropy, especially when people from business and from other industries come in. There is a bit of impatience.
Oh, yes.
Their development is intergenerational. These evils have kind of bred their way into our lives over centuries, if not decades.
Yes.
And there is an impatience that we're doing these 5 things. Something should come up. There has to be a result, a feedback, and that's where the first problems really begin, because we do not get the gratification that we aim for, and the numbers start looking very, dismal. You were not only adapting to what you were seeing, but you were also very vocal advocates in your fraternity. With other people of influence, saying that a holistic model has to be the solution. Because I remember holistic coming from Swades Foundation and from you both as spokesperson way before it became something people referred to.
Yes.
That's a big one. That you I credit that a lot to how you both demonstrated taking a feedback and doing. What was that for you as people who are out there? How did you go about this process? Because the
Which
signals
one?
are there. See, the signals are everywhere. We're doing 5 things.
Yes.
It's easy to look at some numbers and say, "Okay, we're doing something. We're getting this in return." But you're talking about sitting back, looking at all the signs. Some of them
No, so I
obvious.
think it was very clear. One was self-conviction, really self-conviction. Second one was you have to join the dots, because at the end of the day, as I said, if I want to put a finite timeline, I need results in a particular way. For that, the dots have to get joined.
Yes.
Otherwise, I can keep doing water for the
But
long
that's
period
also
of
very
time.
uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yes.
But which part of
The
giving back is comfortable?
Yeah, you have a point.
Also, Ronnie, I think, and we speak about it a lot, that actually in the beginning, what we did have was the corporate mindset. You cannot have the corporate mindset in philanthropy. You have to have a corporate mindset in certain areas with your own people and a completely different mindset towards the community. You need to pull the community, not push the community. So we actually used to call it that. It's a pull versus push method. Okay? It's a community-centric method. So I think this realization that when we set these hard goals and then chase them, it is not the world of philanthropy.
Yeah.
But the holistic model is not the only holy grail. It's just that what we picked, it is a tough one because yes, it requires a little bit more resilience and patience.
Yeah.
But actually, for our point of view, it completes the whole picture.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that people who want to do only education or take one specific cause
No,
is
it's
anything
also very
different, because
good.
the problems are myriad.
Absolutely. No, it takes all kinds.
Yes,
We
yes.
have a problem
Our
of
felt-
it's a
plenty.
passion-based thing.
We felt we
Absolutely.
wanted to solve this problem of the end problem was we wanted to exit a village, calling it a dream village. And we felt that was our goal. Now,
Yeah.
that is not easy, because one is
Absolutely.
philanthropy, then the second one is this, but then the third one is, you want to have a finite timeline to what you want to do, not to what we want to do, but what that community should do, so that we can actually empower them a little bit more.
And that's what I find really remarkable about the both of you, is that where we have folks who want to transform and revitalize and change and touch and all of that, you're speaking about a model which talks about participation and also
Absolutely.
ensuring that communities are coming on an equal power basis, really.
So beautifully put. That whole, I'm telling you, remember that story of the first village?
Yes.
That's the key.
Yes.
It is the key. You don't know. We don't know. We must accept that we don't know.
Yeah.
And we need to find out. And from whom? From them. They have to, and it's not just that. They have to drive their own change. They have to be the dreamer here. They have to be able to see the pathways to achieve those dreams. That's the key. And now I think that's what I think I'm most proud of, that we're able to do.
Yeah, but how difficult or easy has it been to convince other people of influence and wealth to join you in this mission?
The join is, we don't necessarily feel they have to join in terms of the vision, right? Because that's the thing about the foundation. We're going with our particular conviction. I think what we've done is been a good catalyst for a lot of people who want to participate as donors in that context, where the width of what we execute is wide enough for people necessarily to look at it as donors from a different point of view. So I think a lot of people come on the board. Our advisory board is extremely supportive, but they like our vision. And they're there because they also learn that this is a tough model to follow. Somebody's doing something in education, somebody's doing something here. So it's very interesting for them to do that, and donors participate in a different manner. But otherwise, giving back is a little bit of a personalized thing, right? And I think that's the beauty of it, because that's when the passion and whatever will come. If you're only a granting or a gifting organization, you look at it very differently. You'd reflect on having an executive team that will either narrow down on causes you believe the world needs, or organizations who you think will deliver better than others.
Yes.
So that's the two criteria that you can do. But that you can do sitting in an office.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at this very differently, and the best thing I can describe is that the people, whether it's a donor or a partner or whatever else you want to do, once they come to the village and experience 6 hours there, nobody has
different
come
thing.
back
It's quite
and
magical.
not been part of the story.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yes. So you're basically talking about the difference between an investment mindset versus a problem-solving mindset, and problem-solving with communities and not.
Yeah, and I would add that problem spotting before problem solving, because I wish, because the main point is the community doesn't spot the problems. You have to help them spot the problems.
Yes, but that's also a bit of a slippery slope, right? Because sometimes we are also accused as people with, in philanthropy world of misdiagnosing. What we think the problem is might not be the problem that they face.
No,
so
but
it
when we
needs an
get to the heart
interaction.
of our community, we definitely take the lead from them. There's nothing that they're doing that they don't wish to do, or want to do, or need to do.
Yes.
I'm going to come back to the question you asked earlier in this conversation, which is such a beautiful question. Saying, what is poverty? What you thought of years ago, has that answer changed now, or have you kind of found new layers to that answer?
We found new layers to the answer, because, it was really one of the first things we asked people on our learning journey. What is poverty? And what is it for you? And mostly what answers, we got many of the answers, most of the answers, and also we started with that, therefore, is that there is material poverty, right? There's an absence of facilities in a school, absence of water, absence of toilets, absence of health facilities, etc. But as we started working, we realized that the real poverty is what we can call maybe mental poverty. Poverty lying in the mind and the heart of the people. What is this poverty? This poverty says basically, things are like this and I'm helpless to change it. There is no hope at all. It has been like this for hundreds of years. It will always be like this, and I see no way out. This is how I define mental poverty. And for me, the face you made, it's heartbreaking. And for Ronnie and me and all our team, it's heartbreaking. But it's essential to define it. Because once you can define a problem, you can solve it. A sharp definition. We want to teach our communities to dream. And therefore, the birth of the dream village.
What a beautiful idea.
Yes. And then now the how. Remember I told you we would give a cow, give a goat, give. We realized that we are not solving this problem. We're creating dependency. Right? So we paused and we took this bold decision and we came up with what today is our greatest strength, which is the Village Development Committee. Such a boring name for such a wonderful institution.
It's a wonderful idea, and I hope you explain it now.
Okay, so basically, in a village, it's a group of volunteers. This is critical, and we really wish people would just try it out. Don't pay them anything. Allow them to come forward and bring their best. Allow them the joy of giving back to their own community. The same joy you have, everyone's entitled to that joy. The joy of volunteering, right? It's an amazing, empowering program. So 5 men, 5 women, of which 2 are youth, is a typical village development committee, VDC. We train them for months on end. We test them. What we call this, it's the ability to gather the community. Can I gather the community and get them to do something together? It could be anything. It could be sweeping the villages. It could be building soak pits. For months, they have to do this. We have tests. And Naghma, the harder we make it for them, the more they love us. And the more they feel empowered.
Yeah.
You know, every human being has a sense of dignity.
Yeah.
It's not that they want to take things from us. It's that they have to take things from us. And the sooner we can get them to not need to take things from us, the better.
Yes.
And this is what the VDC does. We have a beautiful process, which I won't get into. It's a 100-day program. Sometimes it takes 2 years. We have to be patient. Sometimes
because
it takes 6
you're
months.
breaking mindset of generations.
We're changing fundamental ways of
we're
thinking.
resetting the village dynamics actually.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the key. We're
And
resetting the
imagine
village dynamics.
changing your whole, you have hopelessness and then suddenly not only hope, forget hope. Now you're empowered. Now it is like, bring it on.
Yes.
Bring on the problems, let's solve them.
Yes.
It can be with
But
anything.
for first, their preamble is they've got to settle the internal disputes.
Yes.
There could be many other disputes, and then they've got to be aligned. But look at that path, because actually then you're already on the path to empower.
Absolutely.
It's really, I tell you the things they do, like for example, one of them said when we went there, for 60 years we have fought. We have never had a village meeting. Thanks to you guys, we finally got together. We had a village meeting and they decided that there was a local election coming up. So they went to the Gauki and they said, if you don't give us that road, which they had been asking for 60 years, we won't vote. And the Gauki gave them the road.
Really?
Yeah. So that happens. And the other thing that happens is suddenly these villages, it's not just the water and the toilets and the health. It's them bringing it, okay? And then they do these incredible things of making their village so beautiful. They paint them. Now, can you imagine 200 households decide on a single color that means the most to them?
Oh.
It could be orange for mangoes and the sunshine. It could be green for the rice fields. They decide, and they, really invite you to visit, or maybe you can show the viewers some of the images.
Yes.
Exquisite, all done on their own ideas of how to beautify. They take tires and they do stuff. They plant more trees. They do a multitude of things apart from this obvious removal of physical poverty.
Absolutely. So basically what you're doing is opening up the world of possibilities.
Yes.
And people who think that they're born to face these trials and these God-given, which are usually not God-given problems, fairly man-made.
Yes.
What you're embedding in their minds is that they have a right to demand for what they need to, and they have a right to demand it with their own effort.
Yeah.
Not because
Not demand. They can find pathways. They will find their path. We've done fundraising, all sorts of crazy things on Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of our community does their own crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding. We have now today 11,000 community volunteers. We have, for example, Vidya Kule, she's my favorite. I do have a favorite. She has been with us for 12 years. She was a widow. And she joined as a Swades Mitra, which is a health worker. And she was in a terrible state after her husband died, almost alone at home, She trained and she detected TB cases. Now, TB cases, there were 3 in her. She detected it through the training. And she set out to make sure that they take their medicines for, I think it's a 100-day program. Or something like, forgive me, I don't know the exact, but it's a lot of pills they have to continuously take for TB. In the end, the village respected her so much, she became the sarpanch of that community. So I think people like her, they are the inspiration to keep going in the really times where we really go through a lot of difficulties.
Yes.
We see a lot of failures, we see a lot of challenges, but those are the stories and the people and the real heroes. And I also want to mention that the other heroes for us, I think first hero is our team. led by Mangesh, our CEO. Our leadership team has on average been with us for 8 years.
Wow.
Yes, I think it's really wonderful. None of them, hopefully, have to leave. I don't know. I can't say, but even they don't know. But right now, this is how it is, touch wood. And it's taken time to get here. It takes
Absolutely.
time to stabilize. It takes 10 years to stabilize an organization, I've realized. And you have to be patient through all the thick and thin times.
You know what strikes me while listening to you is we keep talking about trust-based philanthropy, patient capital, how catalytic philanthropy can move. And these are all concepts that have, again, become very important topics of discussion because the inequity has been increasing like never before. And you've been putting it into practice. Now, if you had to send out messages to those who are now, inheriting wealth, who are on the early stages of their journey and thinking, I have to find out more before I do anything. Because that is really the most popular reason for not beginning to give early has been that I need to learn more, I need to earn more. So while enough is never enough, how does all this learning that you've accumulated, how would you like to place it to the young, wealthy
Yeah, in many ways.
people?
Number one, I'd say you will earn more and you learn more if you give back more. There's no question about that. No question
Good
about
one.
that.
Cheers.
I think the second one is, there isn't a right time. Like there isn't a right time to start a business. There's no right time to switch a job. There's no right time actually to take that on. Third is we obsess a lot about work-life balance. But you start with this, you won't think about work-life balance. So I think the people who keep constantly looking for work-life balance will look at it this way. Fourth, whether we like it or not, the next generation is going to inherit Viksit Bharat. We are all working for that generation to inherit Viksit Bharat, right? So, because it's still 2047 when we're going to have that. That's still quite some time away. And therefore, it's onerous for them to understand that India is very different from other countries. So 600 people are in rural India. If not rural and you don't like the geography, there is the haves and the have-nots.
Yes.
And that's going to get more acute. But we're not going to be a Viksit Bharat or a developed country just by being the third largest economy. Because third largest economy we can be because at 1.4 billion people, you multiply anything, even if it's a base, you'll get much better than most people with 200 million people in the
Yeah,
population.
we have the volumes.
Right.
But you need a per capita that's got to change. And that can't change without rural India, cannot change without the have-nots. So you have an obligation and a duty, if you want to inherit Viksit Bharat, that you need to be part of that journey, which means you need to have that balance.
Yeah.
And that's very, very, very critical and important. And most people here think, oh, but in China, they moved 200 million people here, and in this Venezuela, they've done this. India is not going to be a China for different reasons.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to urbanize. We're not good at creating urban cities in that context yet. So we will have to find how rural India becomes cool in rural India and how poor communities with their aspirations are as fulfilled as the people who have higher aspirations and are getting threatened with AI and other stuff. So I think there's enough there for everyone to not think twice.
And you've been speaking about understanding that there is something missing, kind of changing course in the middle of all this finding.
Yes.
Would you like to also place a message out there on just the patience that is needed for real change to happen?
I think there are two things that inhibit people. I think mainly actually there's only one. And I think that's the fear of making mistakes.
So true.
Right?
Yeah.
So my answer to that, see, it's never nice to make a mistake. But if you are trying to do anything really meaningful, it's always quite difficult. And if it's not difficult, then it's may not be worth doing. So go out there, start small, start close to you, but start. Start. Make your own mistakes, learn, follow your passions, follow your dreams, share your mistakes so that other people don't make them. There's so many that we've made. We also really had a lot of success also. Sometimes we don't talk about our success. Keep talking about, my team tell me, why do you keep talking about failure? Talk about our success. But our success is quite apparent to people.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
I think
when you're single, you learn more for yourself. But when you're a family, you earn more. So when you start adopting other people, the motivation to earn more will be there as much as when you're enlarging your family.
Yeah,
So
totally. And just do it. It's really joyful. Of course you will fail. Go, so celebrate your failure, enjoy
In fact,
your
in
failure.
philanthropy, we should have awards for, best
Failing and
mistakes.
Best
Yes.
mistakes and learning.
Yes.
Really, because it's a joyful process.
Yeah.
But I have to
And
say,
it's
on the
needed.
contrary, there aren't too many report cards. So failure is not called out that often.
Yeah. It's
So just-
romanticized
yeah,
a little
so just,
bit.
Yeah, you can pass a lot of success on
Yeah.
just with perception.
With good
So
English.
actually, there needs to be a report card in philanthropy. Then actually failure will come about.
Yeah. Why do you think that this is something that's been a pet peeve of mine?
Because it's just a nice thing to do, right? So you just feel, if I'm giving something to somebody, or I've just given a toilet to somebody, how can that be negative? It is only positive, right? You've given something to somebody. You've given an ability for them to earn more. So that in itself, in your part, is a big tick mark. But actually, how long will that last? What will that benefit be? Will they use the toilet for storage facility or to get that village open defecation free? Will they take the goat and actually go out and there and have a good meal about it? Or will they actually make 40 goats and become lakpatis? That is the journey we all need to be on.
Yeah, it's just pure joy to listen to both of you, I have to say, and I can see all my team smiling as well, because it's so rare to see someone of your influence, experience, and intention to so vocally put this out there and just sharply put out the message that the only way to learn how to give is to really start giving. Thank you for everything that you do. This has been the most amazing conversation, and I hope everybody who's listening has begun cutting their first checks.
Or thinking, what can I do? First,
Yes.
there are ways to go about this. Naghma, there are like nuggets that we
Let's
can...
hear you do this.
Oh,
yes.
no,
Really. I mean it, because this is, you won't believe how many people get clueless as soon as, intention to action. There is a reason why it doesn't always happen. So it'll be great to hear you say
Okay,
that.
so basically, we can take our own example
Yep.
very quickly. We're saying, okay, we're inspired to solve the problem of rural poverty. So what we did is go on a learning journey. The first thing you do is you state your intention. I want to solve the problem of rural poverty. Now, it sounds really huge and scary, right? And what do you know about it living
Yeah.
in the city the whole
Yeah,
time, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't know anything except that first. I don't know anything. I have my problem statement. I know nothing because you really don't know anything.
Beautiful, yes.
And now you start learning. Go on a 1-year learning journey. In the meantime, start giving to your favorite and visit and understand and ask them 100 questions.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, make your decisions and start. This is the simple way to go.
Yes.
And of course, if you go wrong, you can change. What's going to happen? Really, what can you do that's so wrong?
Yes.
Unless your intentions are terrible, but they won't be. They
Yeah.
will be good.
Yes.
And once you go on a bit of a learning journey, you will see things and learn things
And find people like you,
find
really.
people, like-minded people. You will find government officials who are
Yeah.
amazing heroes. I don't know, there's so many problems, beautiful problems to solve.
When I first entered the development sector, I remember the first month, I had no idea something like this was there, went to 2-3 visits. I remember going back home and saying, I had no clue the world had so many good people. And that was so, it hits you like a ton of bricks. Like we as human beings have belief that the world is largely okay. But when you go and meet the kind of folks that actually run this world and make lives move around, it's very humbling. And this journey of realization is all it takes actually to start opening your purses and your hearts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, when we were speaking, and the people I had in my mind, the pictures I had in my mind, what is of my community. I'm going to give you one small example to end this. You can say, you want to exit. We have an exit strategy. So how to exit? So we take our village development committees and we made community cluster development committees, okay? Now we're thinking, have we really penetrated Raigad? This is a question Ronnie asked, and I'm going, oh, bloody hell. Anyway, so we're at actually 30% of target. And that is actually the right percentage, according to me, in my humble opinion. And we should exit at that point. We made a difference to 30% of the villages in
That's a big one.
huge geography,
That's a
like
big
500,000 people. Okay, but Ronnie said, let's do one mop-up. So what we designed is these clusters. We will not go to these villages who have not adopted the Swades model. The community will go. And the community went to 600 villages, spoke about the Swades model. Now, these are people who are good people. They are the good people, really good people. spend their time, their energy going, talking about Swades. We got 120 requests. They have to invite us in, as I said before, requests. Now we'll see
120.
if out of that 50 really follow the formation of the VDC and see it to the end. That's it. We're so happy.
Mind-blowing.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
No,
Thank
for
you so
having
much.
us here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Really delighted. I was actually telling Zarina on stage that day that the first person I heard speaking about philanthropy was her, and that was at a Swades Bharat convening in St. Regis, where there was a whole room of rich folks, and she was talking about toilets, and I could see the confusion on their faces about why this is even important to talk about, but the conviction with which you were
And I'm still talking about
Yeah.
toilets desperately.
But that was
Toilets is one of my favorite solutions. I can go on about it for like hours on it. Because it's such a game changer.
It is.
It is really, really, really. Can you imagine your life without it?